Hello and welcome to the hard sell where the stick in the swill-bucket rattles back. Hang on. Is that better? Or can you see too well now? Eyeballs! You'll need glasses eventually, unless you're unusually lucky. I already wear them for screen work, plus I have a deaf aid now, so hip fucking hooray for me. Eyeglasses have been a thing since someone had the idea of attaching two small magnifying glasses together so you could balance them on your nose. That was in the 14th century. 150 years later, Pope Leo X, who was otherwise blind as a bat, wore some of the first concave lenses when out hunting Boers and Protestants. By the 18th century, they finally solved the riddle of how to keep them on your face without the bastard things falling off all the time, god damn it, by inventing handles and incorporating the ears into the whole process. And that's how we got the eyeglasses we know today. And opticians, of course, or as we call them in my family, eye shops, who advertise just like everyone else. There are some fairly obvious ways to advertise glasses and eye health in general. One of them was prominently used in a 1989 campaign by the Opticians Federation, essentially stuff adverts for eyesight itself.
When was the last time you had your eyes examined? Care for your sight. See your optician.
It's intriguing to wonder why these were considered necessary in 1989. Was there some kind of national crisis of eyesight? Were we just not spending enough on specs and contacts? Whatever, it might be an obvious joke, but it's a funny one. And it's not the last time we'll be seeing it either. Getting down to brand names, one of the biggest in the country is Boots. It's probably the biggest at one point, when Boots was more than just the pharmacist it is today and went through a downright feverish expansionist phase that culminated in the 90s when it inevitably burst as bubbles do. I picture the company waking up bleary and hungover, light burning its retinas, rubbing its forehead as it slowly dawns on them that they just bought Halfords. But anyway, even though they had to downsize severely in the 21st century, the eye shops are still one of the few extracurricular things they do besides drugs and toiletries. Here's how they advertised in 1995, with syrup.
He'll take good care of that, just like Boots Opticians did with me. Very thorough eye test. The optician made it clear exactly what was right for me. As for frames, it was good to get some advice. Decided on a designer pair. After all, everything in their sale's half price. Nice to know someone else cares about my eyes. That's really worth something.
Half-price frames at Boots Opticians. We care because you do.
It's like a Werther's Originals advert. Nowhere near as treacly as those, to be fair. Thank God for that.
On an ordinary day, a child's bright laughter fills the air. One loving word, one loving glance, the sunshine everywhere.
No, there isn't. No sunshine, eternal darkness. Anyway, this Boots thing is nowhere near that bad, but it's got a similar feel. It's suffocatingly cosy and nice. There's no guile to it whatsoever. It feels to me as if Boots and the advertisers were aiming here at the elderly. The straightforward, completely utilitarian dialogue and almost step-by-step structure is reminiscent of the sort of thing that gets shown in the middle of the afternoon, fronted by Peter Purvis, explaining the concept of life assurance very slowly and clearly down the lens, so the youngsters can understand it all, through a fog of dementia and or failing hearing and or despair. Patronising and depressing in equal measure. At least the eye shop advert only manages the former, since the product doesn't revolve entirely around death. It's hard not to think Boots may have overestimated the elderly customer base for new eyeballs. That sort of thing, certainly by 1995, was just too cloying to appeal to anyone under the age of 65, and anyone of intelligence over that age for that matter. Not long after that, they moved on to a notion that served them until the turn of the century, focusing on the specs themselves.
There's something amazing going on at Boots Opticians. A quite unbelievable half-price frame sale. A sale that all Boots brand frames want to be in. A sale so good, even designer frames want to be part of it. Why not see for yourself before they walk?
It might have been originally for a sale, but bits of that animation cropped up for years afterward, particularly when there was another sale. Either that or this.
Buy one pair of Boots brand spectacles, then choose another pair, including prescription sunglasses, absolutely free. What a choice. From Boots Opticians.
Those, of course, don't seem to be aimed at anyone in particular. Certainly not the elderly. That lesson seems to have been learned, because they're rarely, if ever, the focus in optical advertising. No pun intended. Old people aren't sexy, or big spenders, generally speaking. Your average eye shop wants to catch the young executive types, because they're the ones who spend like water and have more of their lives ahead of them in which to continue to do so. Plus, they just make the company look cooler by association. Take this recent example.
Choose a free second pair at Boots Opticians, because there's more than one you.
Another success for the campaign to keep Dolly Wells in work, I notice. Another major name in eye shops is Vision Express. They were launched as an upstart in 1988, and their advertising strategy for their earliest years was declamatory and unsophisticated. Almost all of them had the same format, basically a bloke in a suit standing around an echoing shopping mall in front of an outlet, bellowing at the top of his voice about how ruddy great the shop is, interspersed with illustrative footage and acres of vox pops. Like this.
At some optical stores, making glasses fast may mean making easy prescriptions. At Vision Express, our labs make even difficult prescriptions in about 1 hour.
I got scratch-resistant tinted plastic lenses in less than an hour at Vision Express.
I had bifocals with tinted lenses in less than an hour.
Vision Express said they'd get them in an hour, and they got them in an hour.
Vision Express, now open at the Sandler Centre, Walsall, and at Dudley, Redditch, Hanley, Derby and Nottingham.
You have now basically seen the majority of Vision Express adverts from the early 90s. You may have noticed that lenses were colossal in those days. The giant Deirdre Barlow look was in at the time. So this was sincere enough, and certainly hard to ignore. But in the 90s, after the decade of Hugh Hudson, Ridley Scott and Charles Saatchi, it didn't do much to make Vision Express look like a major national brand, which theoretically is what it was. Instead, it feels like an advert for a local furniture store or something, not helped by the bit at the end listing all of the outlets in your ITV region. This all changed after the company was bought by Grand Vision, the French opticians. Obviously they weren't going to stand for such a lack of basic style in their advertising, so as part of their relaunch of the company, involving crisp sans serifs and minimalist storefronts, naturally, they took a hard left turn into abstraction, with a series of adverts fronted by no less than the new chairman of the board, Monsieur Daniel Habitat.
Glasses usually take a lot of punishment. Your children is grabbing your glasses, and each time your glasses stay in a wrong way. You should consider Memoflex. You can bend them. It's coming back like this. Is metal with memory, and Memoflex help people to make sport, ski, and to have children safety.
It may have been a bit too abstract and French for the British palate, however, as later entries show Habitat as more of a straightforward pitchman, albeit with interesting camera angles and the odd optical illusion, appropriately enough.
As chairman of Vision Express, I am always looking for new ideas. These enhanced contact lenses have been proven in eye examinations to help you see better than ordinary contact lenses, as my assistant will now demonstrate. Ready, George?
Could you read the number plate on that vehicle, please?
W277SEG. Et voilà, enhanced contact lenses make small things bigger.
Vision Express, experts with vision.
Then again, 10 years later, they were doing this.
At Vision Express, we really put your eyes through their paces. We have over 100 different ways to test your eyes to make sure they're at their healthiest. Pop into Vision Express today, or book an eye exam at visionexpress.com.
If the residents made a fitness video, it would be more interesting and troubling than that. There was also a brief flirtation with an animated mascot called Marvin the Mole.
Now these will look perfect.
Oh, yeah.
They come with free lifetime servicing.
Nice one.
And a free 100-day returns guarantee.
I like it. Oh, easy. Still got it.
Nice glasses, Dad.
Only £25 and all.
With free lifetime servicing, free 100-day returns guarantee, and glasses from £25, you'll see more for less with Vision Express.
Unfortunately, they forgot the personality. These days they're just going for the straightforward slice of life angle, which is fine, I suppose. Dolland and Aitchison, with their famous owl logo, were a distinguished name in eye care once, and when I say distinguished, I mean it. This is a company that was older than America, although not under that name. Mr Dolland opened his first practice in 1750. It merged with Mr Aitchison's in 1927. The oldest advert I can find for them, however, comes from somewhat later. 1985, actually.
You know, I really can't commend my opticians, Dolland and Aitchison, highly enough. Such a friendly receptionist. And the chap who did my eyes, young fellow he was, first rate. First rate. He gave me lots of advice.
A marvellous range of specs to choose from. I collect mine this afternoon.
Drop into Dolland and Aitchison.
Another variation on the basic Mr Magoo shtick, although there's a possibility of it backfiring somewhat here. The fulsome praise this guy is giving the company is great and all, but it's challenged by the imagery of him walking into everything because, as the punchline states, he hasn't actually got his new eyeballs yet. It kind of undermines itself in the same way as the famous Strand cigarettes commercial.
You're never alone with a Strand.
It doesn't matter what's being said, it matters what's being seen and understood by the non-thinking parts of the brain. A process that bypasses the intellect and creates its own associations. So Strand is associated with loneliness, despite "you're never alone with a Strand" being the slogan. And Dolland and Aitchison are in danger of associating themselves with poor eyesight, which is what they don't want because that's what they're supposed to fix, not what they're supposed to leave you with. Not that it seems to have harmed the company any. Semiotics are all very well, but sometimes the brain just doesn't care. Probably the most famous Dolland and Aitchison campaign, however, is the one from the late 90s, where they hired possibly the least anticipated frontmen of the decade.
Who came with me when I bought my new glasses?
Mr. Reynolds.
And who said they'll look completely ridiculous on me? Well, you should have, because it's true. Get the car, we're going shopping. Stop!
Oh, they're gorgeous. It's you.
What do you think?
I think they're wrong. You see, you've got strong cheekbones, so a curved frame would suit you better. These are more you. What do you think?
Perfect. Thank you, Janine. You've been wonderful.
I think you're wonderful too. My mum's got all your records, Mr. Humperdinck.
Dolland and Aitchison, where everyone gets star treatment.
It's actually not that surprising to see Burt Reynolds in a British advert. He'd already done one for British Gas at the other end of the 90s. But still, becoming the frontman for an Opticians isn't something anyone saw coming. Particularly when it turned out to be surprisingly successful, keeping DNA going in the first few years of the century. Later, Burt was joined by Cuprinol spokesman George Hamilton, who picked up the slack when Burt inevitably got bored and wandered off.
George, what in the world are those?
Well, they're all the rage in L.A.
I know. I think you should meet this lady friend of mine.
The computer shows us that squarer frames suit you, and gold would complement your tan.
She's complimenting me on my tan. Well?
They take 10 years off you.
She's right. You don't look a day over 65.
Dolland and Aitchison, for the perfect look.
Those two couldn't keep DNA going forever, of course, and after officially shortening their name to just the initials, because no one had the patience to sit through a 6-syllable company name in the mid-aughties, they decided to modernise with a CGI animated commercial. Unfortunately, the designs were off-putting.
No one wants to feel like a sausage in a sausage factory. And you certainly wouldn't want that when it comes to eye care. At Dolland and Aitchison, we prefer to take our time to find out what you really need and what you don't. And we promise to treat you like a person, not a sausage. DNA. We see eye care differently.
Live on Prem Plus in a...
Maybe in claymation that kind of distorted alien character design might have worked, but probably not. The grim Savaloy world premise doesn't help either. 3 years after this ran, they were absorbed by Boots, minutes after denying they were in any kind of financial trouble at all. Boots kept the name going for a few more years before remembering that they were already a branch of Opticians, they didn't actually need a second brand out there, and unceremoniously squishing the 260-year-old company out of existence. And now it's finally time to look at the biggest eye shop in town, the one that arguably squeezed DNA out of the market. Specsavers are only slightly older than Vision Express. They were formed in 1984 by a husband and wife team in Guernsey called Mary and Doug Perkins, which is about as cosy and British as a corporate origin story can get. Even better, they still own the company, after 40 years. It's not become a subsidiary of Conglomco or anything. Yet. And in that time, they've reached the pinnacle of the eye care market in Britain. 42% of it, including me. And that's some achievement, especially when you consider this, the oldest advert I could find for Specsavers, from 1995.
This mild-mannered TV host seems harmless enough, but once a year he becomes...
Spectacle Man! What? No spectacle deals! I can fix that! Buy new spectacles and choose free second pairs, free contact lens trials, and many cash deals where you can save up to £30.
Will you include the lenses?
That's all in a day's work for Spectacle Man!
Oh, don't miss out.
A superhero with glasses!
Not many companies would be bold enough to commit to Nicholas Parsons as a camp superhero for their mascot. Fewer still would survive having done so. Almost none would end up as the most successful brand in their industry by a long way. Specsavers managed all three. Quickly putting Spectacle Man behind them, and adopting the famous two green ovals logo, their next campaign was much more gentle, occasionally to the point of homeopathy.
Get real. Choose 2 stylish pairs of spectacles and pay for just 1.
Specsavers Opticians. Now you can believe your eyes.
Now you can believe your eyes is one of the obvious choices for an optician slogan, although I prefer Vision Express's "You'll see." But it's a bit long and maybe a bit prissy, and the adverts themselves were sometimes underwhelming. Like this.
I couldn't think of any other time it would have happened. I mean, most shops you go into, the price would be perfectly clear. Until you bought a pair of these. Tough, really. You'd spend ages choosing the frame which really suited you, you know, price ticket on and everything. And then you'd find you had to add on the price of the flipping lenses. But before you knew it, you were talking serious cash. Think about the punter. That's what I say.
A slightly doughy man sitting in a bar delivering a rather dull monologue about customer service. We're never given a reason we should care about this man's opinions. They never even say the name Specsavers out loud. In fact, what with the flashy camera work, deep focus and pointless transition effects, it feels more like a piece from editors or cinematographer school than anything else. But oh well. This campaign definitely brought the brand to national attention. A couple of years later, they hit upon the premise that made them #1 and created a whole new contemporary slang phrase.
Hi.
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 Sorry.
It's been shouted at referees, yelled by sexist men, groaned by people who've just stepped in dog shit, and more often than not been the last word said before a punch in the face.
Good girl, Phoebe. Nice and calm today.
Karen, I've got a cat with no pulse here. I need adrenaline and an IV line as quick as you can, please.
Radio Rentals had a similar slogan in the mid-80s, but they didn't play it up enough. And they didn't have the advantage of alliteration. This is how you make your brand a household word.
Thunderbirds are go.
He should have gone to Specsavers, Virgil.
FAB. Free reactions at Specsavers.
Of course, the slogan itself would still have crashed and burned if the Mr Magoo shtick wasn't good enough to support it, if it seemed too mean-spirited or it just wasn't funny. But it is.
Dad, the car's broken.
And once it was sufficiently established, they could play with form to even greater effect. And so we essentially come full circle with an advert that makes a joke about poor eyesight to entreat you to visit your optician. The difference is that the adverts at the start were for the basic concept of the optician, whereas this one is for a specific brand. But by using the same technique, it essentially makes its brand synonymous with its function. Don't say optician, just say Specsavers. That's how they've come to dominate the market so thoroughly. And fortunately, they basically deserve to. I mean, they seem fine to me. And, like I said, they're still owned by the family that founded them, which is just nice. Probably. For all I know, there could be a family of Nazis. Although for legal reasons, I must point out that I'm certain they are not, at all, and any such suggestion would be slander. Actually, they seem perfectly nice. Anyway, remember to look after your eyeballs. You won't get another set. Unless you're a multi-billionaire, I suppose. In which case you could probably pay a peasant to have theirs scooped out and inserted into your own eye socket. Probably because you just like the colour or something. Bastard.
Got to my eyes, cannot see the sky. Is this the price for having learned how not to cry?
It feels more like a piece from editors or cinematographers school than anything else. Oh, bugger off. You just sat through a Bob the Fish production. Nice! If you haven't already, you absolutely must check out bobthefish.org.uk. Literally hundreds more videos not unlike that one, adding up to days worth of entertainment and all absolutely free. But if you're not a cold-hearted skinflint, you can always support us on Patreon. For as little as anything at all, you can make programs like the one you just watched possible in the first place, and become eligible for bonus material such as glimpses of the book I'm writing about the BBC, monthly riffings on random commercial breaks, the complete archives of the angry political satire magazine Two Sons, and even the odd very occasional bonus video essay unavailable anywhere else. If nothing else, you should prevent me from starving and or freezing to death in the foreseeable future, so that'd be nice. No pressure or anything. bobthefish.org.uk. You make it what it is.